The summer sun blazed over the neighborhood pool, where laughter and splashing echoed against the water. But not all the laughter was innocent. A group of HOA boys spotted a quiet girl, alone in the shallow end, her green swimsuit contrasting against the sparkling blue water. She came from the farmhouse just beyond the community line, and they saw her as different, an outsider. With Karen, the self-appointed queen of the HOA, smirking from her lounge chair, the boys circled in. They didn't know that the girl carried with her a strength born not from privilege, but from discipline. Emily was no stranger to feeling out of place. Living with her grandparents on a small farm, she often visited the community pool just to cool off after long days of chores. Unlike the polished neighborhood kids, she wore simple clothes, spoke softly, and kept to herself. It wasn't that she didn't want friends. It was that she'd learned silence kept her safe. The HOA community, led by the notoriously nosy Karen, didn't welcome outsiders easily. Emily's farm sat just outside the official borders, and Karen never missed a chance to remind everyone that rules were rules. But the pool had been public for generations, long before the HOA claimed control. Emily's grandfather insisted she had as much right to swim there as anyone. The boys, Karen's son and his friends, saw Emily's quietness as weakness. They mocked her simple swimsuit, whispered about her family's farm, and made jokes about farm girls not belonging. Every time, Karen's smirk confirmed their behavior. But what no one knew, what Emily never flaunted, was that for years she had trained in martial arts at a small dojo in town. Her grandfather believed she needed more than just hard work on the farm. She needed strength, discipline, and self-defense. Though Emily never sought conflict, she carried that training in every breath, every step, every movement. And on this scorching afternoon, when the boys decided to push her boundaries too far, she would be forced to use it. The boys' laughter grew louder as they splashed closer to Emily. At first, she ignored them, dipping under the water to swim to the other side. But they followed. One shoved water in her face. Another yanked at her arm. Karen watched from her chair, sunglasses perched on her nose, her drink in hand, offering no scolding, only a faint smile. "Farm girl doesn't belong here," one of the boys jeered, loud enough for the whole pool deck to hear. A few other kids giggled nervously. Adults shifted uncomfortably. But no one dared challenge Karen's son. Emily felt her heart race, not from fear, but from restraint. Her grandfather's voice echoed in her mind. Discipline first, power second. Never strike unless you must. The boys weren't done. One of them suddenly shoved her hard, and Emily's body splashed into the deeper water. She coughed, catching her breath, her hair sticking to her face. Cheers and laughter erupted around her. For a moment, Emily wanted to climb out and walk away. It wasn't worth it. She didn't need to prove herself to anyone. But then she heard it. Karen's voice, sharp and smug. "That's what happens when you let outsiders into our pool." The words pierced deeper than the shove ever could. Emily felt a fire rising in her chest. She didn't climb out. She didn't run. She steadied herself, standing waist-deep in the water, and stared at the boys. Her shoulders straightened. Her breath slowed. She was no longer the quiet girl they thought they could push around. The boys grew bolder, emboldened by their audience. One lunged forward again, splashing water in her face. Another tried to grab her wrist to pull her under. What happened next silenced the entire pool. Emily moved, fast. She twisted her wrist free with a sharp motion, a technique she'd repeated thousands of times in training. The boys stumbled back in shock. Another reached for her shoulder, but Emily pivoted, water spraying as she used his momentum against him, sending him sprawling into the pool with a loud splash. Gasps erupted. She didn't hit. She didn't hurt. She redirected, controlled, precise. The boys tried again, but every move they made was met with Emily's calm, practiced defense. A shove turned into a stumble of their own. A grab turned into a fall. Soon, the so-called tough kids flailed helplessly in the water, coughing, splashing, and scrambling for balance. Silence fell over the crowd. The laughter had vanished. Even Karen sat up in her chair, her smug expression replaced by disbelief. Emily stood tall in the shallow water, droplets running down her face, her eyes steady. She hadn't shouted, hadn't insulted, hadn't raised her voice. Her strength had spoken louder than any words. The last boy lunged at her, desperate to reclaim control. Emily sidestepped smoothly, guiding him past her. He lost balance and landed face first in the pool. The splash echoed like a final drumbeat. For a moment, time froze. The pool was still. The audience stared. Then Emily lifted herself out of the water with effortless grace. She stood on the deck, her soaked hair clinging to her back, her posture calm but unyielding. The boys scrambled to the edge, coughing and humiliated, their bravado drowned beneath the weight of their own failure. Karen, fuming, rose from her chair. "You," she began, but the words caught in her throat as every eye turned toward her. For once, no one was laughing with her. No one was smirking. Parents, children, even lifeguards looked not at Karen but at Emily, with awe, with respect. Emily said nothing. She didn't need to. The sight of the defeated boys, the silence of the crowd, and her quiet dignity spoke volumes. She gathered her towel, slung it over her shoulder, and walked back toward the gate. Each step was slow, steady, and deliberate, leaving behind a silence heavier than any shout. In that silence, the truth was undeniable. The farm girl they mocked, the outsider they tried to humiliate, had shown more strength, discipline, and courage than the entire HOA combined. In the days that followed, the story spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. Parents whispered about the incident. Children replayed it in their minds, and the image of Emily standing tall after the boys' defeat became unforgettable. For once, people began questioning Karen's influence, her constant need to divide and belittle. The boys avoided Emily after that day, their pride bruised, but their lesson unforgettable. They had learned that cruelty only exposes weakness, while restraint reveals true power. Emily returned to the pool again the next week. This time, no one mocked her. Some even nodded in quiet respect. She didn't seek friendship or admiration. She only sought peace. But peace she had finally earned. Karen, meanwhile, could never erase the memory. Her reign of control had been cracked not by loud defiance, but by the calm defiance of a girl she had underestimated. The HOA's queen bee had been silenced, not by words, but by truth. Emily knew her battle wasn't just about a pool. It was about belonging, dignity, and proving that no label, outsider, farm girl, poor, defined her. What defined her was the discipline she carried and the courage to stand firm when the world tried to push her under. As she swam across the cool, blue water once again, she carried no bitterness, no anger, only strength. Because sometimes the greatest victories are not the loudest, but the quietest. And sometimes, the girl everyone underestimates is the one who changes everything.